If you think that the purpose of an intelligence agency is just to steal secrets or catch spies, you are missing the bigger picture. For the American CIA, the goal was always technological superiority, and for the Israeli Mossad, the goal was physical deterrence and survival. But for the Soviet KGB and its modern successor, the FSB, the goal is something far more ambitious and terrifying. Their goal is not to kill the enemy soldiers or to bomb their cities. Their goal is to kill the enemy's perception of reality. They call it active measures or active meropryasha, and it is a form of political warfare that has been waged against us for decades. Welcome back to Hidden Logic, where we are continuing our journey into the intelligence web to expose the invisible forces shaping our world. In our previous videos, we looked at how the CIA hacked the mind and how the Mossad uses assassination as a tool of fear. Today, we are crossing the Iron Curtain to meet the masters of deception who believe that the most powerful weapon is not a nuke but a lie. To understand the KGB, you have to understand that they did not view themselves merely as a security service, but as the sword and shield of the party. At its peak, the KGB was the largest spy agency in history, with more than 500,000 agents and millions of informants. But 85% of their budget was not spent on spying, it was spent on subversion and disinformation. The most famous defector in history, Yuri Bezmenov, warned us about this in 1980 in an interview that has now become viral. He explained that the goal of the KGB was to change the perception of reality of every American so that no one is able to come to sensible conclusions. He outlined the first stages of ideological subversion, which are demoralization, destabilization, crisis, and finally normalization. Demoralization takes 15 to 20 years because that is the minimum number of years it takes to educate one generation of students. The goal is to influence the education system, the media, and the culture to make the enemy society lose faith in its own values. If you look at the cultural wars happening in the West today, the polarization and the hatred, you are seeing the fruits of seeds planted 50 years ago. But the KGB did not just deal in abstract philosophy, they dealt in concrete lies that cost millions of lives. One of their most successful operations was Operation INFEKTION in the 1980s during the height of the AIDS epidemic. The KGB realized that fear was a powerful weapon, so they planted a story in a small pro-Soviet newspaper in India. The story claimed that the AIDS virus was not a natural disease, but a biological weapon created by the CIA in a military laboratory. They cited fake scientists and fabricated reports, and slowly the story began to spread to other newspapers in Africa and then to Europe. Eventually, it was picked up by mainstream media in the West, and millions of people began to believe that the US government was killing its own citizens. This destroyed the trust between the public and the health authorities, and it delayed the global response to the epidemic, causing countless deaths. This is the power of disinformatia, or disinformation, which is not just about telling a lie but about creating a new fake reality. But in 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed and the world breathed a sigh of relief, thinking the Cold War was over. The statues of Lenin were torn down and the KGB was officially dissolved and broken into smaller agencies, like the FSB. But here is the hidden logic that most people miss: the building changed, the name changed, but the people inside remained exactly the same. The man who runs Russia today, Vladimir Putin, was a KGB lieutenant colonel who served in East Germany during the Cold War. He did not view the collapse of the Soviet Union as a liberation, he viewed it as the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the century. And when he came to power, he brought the KGB methods with him, turning the FSB into a state within a state. The FSB today is even more dangerous than the KGB because it operates in a globalized world connected by the internet. They realize that they don't need to plant stories in Indian newspapers anymore, they can plant them directly into your Facebook feed. This brings us to the modern era of hybrid warfare, where the battlefield is not a piece of land but your smartphone screen. In St. Petersburg, there is a building known as the Internet Research Agency, which is essentially a factory for trolls. Hundreds of employees work there in shifts, creating fake accounts on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube pretending to be American citizens. Their goal is not to support one political party over another. Their goal is to create chaos and confusion. They will create a fake group supporting Black Lives Matter and another fake group supporting the police, and then organize protests for both on the same day. They want to watch the society tear itself apart from the inside, proving Bezmenov's theory of destabilization correct. They don't need to convince you that their version of the truth is right. They just need to make you doubt that there is any truth at all. This is called the fire hose of falsehood model, where you overwhelm the audience with so many conflicting theories that they give up trying to understand. When people give up on truth, they become passive and cynical, which is exactly what an authoritarian regime wants. That the FSB does not just deal in digital poison, they also deal in real poison, just like their predecessors. While the Mossad kills its enemies with explosions and bullets to send a loud message, the FSB prefers a quieter, more sinister method. In 2006, Alexander Litvinenko, a former FSB officer who defected to London, met with two former colleagues for tea. Weeks later, he died a slow and agonizing death in a hospital, his hair falling out and his organs failing one by one. Investigators discovered that his tea had been spiked with polonium-210, a rare radioactive isotope that is almost impossible to detect. The trail of radiation led all the way back to Moscow, proving that this was a state-sponsored nuclear attack on British soil. Then in 2018, they tried to kill another defector, Sergei Skripal, using a nerve agent called Novichok. Novichok is a chemical weapon developed by the Soviet Union that is so deadly a few grains can kill thousands of people. These attacks serve a dual purpose. They eliminate the traitor, but they also signal to everyone else that there is no escape. The long arm of the Lubyanka, a headquarters of the KGB, reaches everywhere, and forgiveness is not in their vocabulary. However, just like the Mossad, the FSB is not invincible, and their arrogance often leads to sloppy mistakes. In the attempt to kill opposition leader Alexei Navalny, they smeared Novichok on his underwear, hoping he would die on a plane. But Navalny survived and later managed to trick one of the agents into confessing the details of the operation on a recorded phone call. This revealed that the terrifying FSB was also a bureaucracy filled with corrupt and incompetent agents who were just following orders. Though we must not underestimate the threat, because the game has evolved from simple espionage to a war on reality itself. We are living in a post-truth world where facts are debatable and opinions are treated as facts. This environment was carefully engineered by the masters of deception over decades of active measures. The intelligence what we have explored over these 3 videos shows us a terrifying picture of the world we live in. The CIA wants to control the technology and the future. The Mossad wants to secure survival through fear and deterrence. And the FSB wants to control the narrative and the past. So what does this mean for you, the viewer, who is trying to navigate this maze of mirrors and lies? It means that your greatest defense is your own critical thinking and your ability to question the source of your information. When you see a news story that makes you feel an intense emotion like anger or fear, ask yourself who benefits from this emotion. Are you reacting to a real event, or are you reacting to a script written in a troll factory? St. Petersburg. The goal of active measures is to make you a weapon in their war against your own society. When you share a fake story, when you attack your neighbor over a political disagreement, you are doing their work for them. This brings us to our engagement for this week, where I want to challenge you to be a warrior for the truth. I want you to share this video with someone who believes everything they see on the news, or someone who thinks conspiracy theories are harmless. Tell them that the greatest conspiracy is the one that makes us fight each other instead of looking at the people pulling the strings. And I want to hear your opinion in the comments about the state of our information ecosystem. Do you believe that we can ever return to a world of objective truth, or are we doomed to live in separate realities forever? Go to the comments right now and type truth if you believe facts still matter. Type chaos if you think the disinformation war has already been won by the masters of deception. The intelligence web is and dark, but we have one more stop before we finished this investigation. We have looked at the enemies and the rivals, but now we must look at the alliance that watches us all. In our next video we will expose the Five Eyes, the secret pact between the US, UK and others that spies on every digital footprint you make. They say they do it to protect us from the KGB and the terrorists, but the question is who protects us from them? Subscribe and hit the bell because the only way to win the game is to know the rules. We will see you in the shadows.